What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review for Reasonable Doubt Season 2, Episode 6. So listen, we pick up where we left off with Jax meeting up with Adrian. Now, we know that Adrian had that weapon, and Jax was a little nervous, but she made sure that she had an escape plan where she told her investigator, listen, you check on me every 6 minutes, and if you don't hear from me, you come in there, because I don't trust Adrian. I don't know what he got going on. Which was actually a smart call for her not to trust Adrian, because, baby, we know Adrian had that pow waiting on her, okay? Now, what we did find out was that Adrian did admit to her that Evan is a bad man, must shut your mouth. And we got more insight into what Evan was actually into, which was an illegal gambling situation. And he convinced Adrian to siphon out the money and put it under, and basically set Chanel up to take the fall. Now, he got Chanel to sign off on the paperwork by telling Chanel that he was setting up a trust fund for the kids. So Chanel does not know about the money, she knows about the money, but she does not know that the money was stolen from JT. She thinks it's a legitimate situation where she set up a trust fund for the kids. Okay, are we all together on that one? Now, while this is going on, Jax goes home that night, baby, and she is feeling some kind of way because she had a moment where she was triggered when Adrian pulled that weapon out. It took her back to what happened to her last season, but she was able to breathe her way through it. But, baby, she came home and she wanted a piece of her husband in the baddest way. And, baby, her husband couldn't get it up. And her husband couldn't get it up because he is worried about whether he got a baby on the way from somebody else, okay? But in the meantime and in between time, he pleasured her in other ways, but she wasn't fooled. Women know, okay? She knew that, he was having some trouble. Now, while this is going on, we see Lucy on her way to court, and her tires are slashed. Now, she doesn't want to make her son nervous. She made it seem like she just got a flat tire. But, baby, that flat tire was not nature. Okay, somebody caused it. And then we end up seeing that a man is across the street smoking a cigarette. He got his eye on her house. So, Lucy has some stuff going on. Now, I feel like if what I feel like they're doing is setting this situation up for next season. Because that's what they did last year, season 1. We were so focused on the main case for season 1. We saw a couple of scenes with Chanel and JT being rude to her and mean to her and verbally abusive. But honestly, if you go back and look at my reviews, I was like, why are we talking about this? Like, it just seemed like they threw this scene in only for us to get to the end of the season and find out basically they were setting us up for season 2. So I feel like this whole Lucy situation with whoever this guy is and from her past, I feel like that's a setup for season 3. I do not feel like we're going to get a resolution to that storyline right now. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's the setup for going into next season. Anyway, that don't mean we don't need to pay attention to it. I just don't I feel like right now it's a red herring. We don't need to get caught up in it, right? With that being said, Lucy gets to court late, and of course, the judge is telling her, make sure you get your tail here, okay? We don't play them late games. Get your tail here for the future. Now, while that is happening, they have a couple of people testify. We also found out that Adrian has been subpoenaed by Lucy, and they're trying to figure out what it is that they want from Adrian, because they know what they know about Adrian, but Adrian hasn't shared that information with Lucy, so they're not really quite sure like what the strategy is behind that. Now, they are able to get a former coach to testify and basically say JT was a great guy and he would never do a thing like this. But they were able to put some holes in that by basically showing that coach had also testified for another player who ended up unaliving somebody, and he said the same thing. So they were able to kind of throw some holes in that testimony. And then they were able, there was a real estate agent that was showing houses to Chanel before JT died, and of course they were trying to establish that she was looking for these expensive houses, maybe in anticipation that she was going to get all of JT's money. But they were able to kind of put, like, if I was on the jury, I would have felt a little bit of reasonable doubt in that, from the point of view of they were able to show that she was looking at houses that were significantly cheaper than the house that she lives in now, even though it's still like $1 million house or $2 million house, right? We also see that JT's mama is putting pressure on the DA about getting a conviction and basically threatening his re-election campaign, which of course he's trickling that pressure down to Lucy, like, don't screw this up, okay? Because my job and your job could possibly be on the line, okay? Now, while this is going on, Louis dumb ass, he now has to know if he the baby daddy. He said, I'm just not that type of dude to be having kids floating around out here, and I don't know if I'm the daddy. So he pulls up on Tony down to the school and tells her that he needs to get a test. And Tony is like, why are you doing this to me? Like, I done already let you off the hook. I done already told you, don't worry about it. Why are you doing this to me? And Louis is like, I'm not doing anything to you. I just need to know. So she agrees. He said, listen, I can go to my doctor. I've already talked to my doctor. We can set something up today. She was like, today? He was like, yes. Like, the sooner I know, the sooner, we can get past this or whatever. So she was just like, all right, I'll call you. But I feel like Tony feel. But I also understand where Louis is coming from. Even though he may end up having to blow up his life to do it, I understand. And I respect it. I respect it. I ain't going to say to a certain extent. I do respect it. Now, back down to Jax's house. Her daughter is really feeling herself. Her daughter just set up a dummy Instagram account, and she is uploading TikTok, and she is uploading these like sexy TikToks with her shirt tied, showing her midriff and all that. And the son says, listen, you need to get it together. Like, don't be putting this on social media. He playing Big Brother. And he tells her, listen, if you don't take him down, I'm telling mommy and daddy. And she was like, go ahead and tell mommy and daddy. And then I'm going to tell them about your secret drawer. Now, I don't know what's in that secret drawer. But that seemed to scare him enough that he sort of hesitated, even though later on he does end up snitching. But he definitely was hesitating a little bit. Now, he does end up telling, so maybe he moved the stuff that was in the drawer. See, if that had been me, I just would have moved the stuff that was in the drawer. Like, you done already told me what's in that drawer, so it's not going to be in that drawer. If you do decide to retaliate and tell mommy and daddy about it, it ain't going to be no evidence. It's gone, whatever it is. Now, I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, it won't be there when they go look for it. Anyway. Now, then we see that Morris Chestnut is having these wet dreams about Jax. So he clearly is developing feelings for Jax. And they sort of had me going for a quick second where they had this scene where Jax comes in and they get the kissing and they get the, getting it in on the conference room table. Now, first of all, I was like, well, I don't think Jax will go down this road again after just coming off of that mess last season. But she definitely wouldn't do it on the conference room table in the middle of the job. Like, she wouldn't do that. At least, I don't think she would do that. But it was all a dream. Anyway. So then we see her go to therapy on her own. It's not the therapist that she goes to with Louis. It's the therapist that she had to go to, that the job sent her to, that she had to get clearance from before she could go back to work. And what she's telling her therapist is like, listen, my intuition is telling me something is going on with my husband. Like, the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up and I can't shake it. And something ain't right. I don't know what it is. I ain't figured it out. But something is not right. And the doctor basically told her, listen to your instincts. You're not crazy. Okay? If you feel like something is happening, then something might be happening. But what we don't want you to do is to blow up your spot over your insecurity because things are just going too well. She said, listen, don't be so nervous about things going too well that you overlook the fact that you could just legitimately be in a better place. Like, you could just legitimately be moving in a better direction. So don't overlook it too much. Don't overthink it too much. Be diligent. But don't blow up your spot being too nervous about it. Okay? Now, while this is going on, Jax also talks to her girlfriend. Because y'all know, we still got to hear from somebody else. So Jax talks to the girlfriend. And she tells her girlfriend the same thing. And her girlfriend says, well, no, that's later on. I'm sorry. I skipped something. That's later on. That's after she sees something else. We're going to get to that. So, while this is going on, Adrian meets up with Evan. And Evan was like, did you solve our problem? And Adrian was like, yeah, I talked to Jax. She going to back down. I let her know that she need to back up. Or she going, it ain't going to end well for her. Now, Evan was sort of kind of not really feeling it. I don't think he was totally trusting what Adrian was saying. But Adrian was kind of like, what? Like, I did what you told me to do. I talked to her. It was no need for me to, like, you know, take her out. She understands and she's going to be quiet. He said, but I do need to let you know that I was subpoenaed. And Evan was like, well, I don't think I like the sound of that. Like, are you sure that you good with being subpoenaed? Like, you know not to say nothing. And he was like, of course I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm not stupid. I know, right? He was like, I got it handled. I got it handled. Now, while this is going on, Morris Chestnut daddy comes to town. Now, remember, his daddy is a big-time attorney. And what we found out about his daddy, first of all, he's a nice-looking gentleman. He's a nice-looking older gentleman. But we definitely can see that him and Morris Chestnut's relationship is very contentious. Morris wants his daddy to help him with his client that he's trying to get out of jail. And the daddy is like, you don't have a high enough profile. I told you, until you can get a high enough profile, I can't really do nothing for you. Which now we understand why he agreed to take this case. Because he feels like this case is going to give him, if he wins it, give him a high enough profile for his dad to help him get out of, you know, get his other client out of jail. So he has a good day in court in front of his daddy, you know, and then they go to lunch. While they were at lunch, it was all feeling, you know, because he was trying to talk his daddy out of it, because he know his daddy. He know him for his works. So he was trying to talk his daddy trying to talk Jax out of going to lunch. But, you know, Jax was like, you think I'm going to turn down the opportunity to go to lunch with the judge, with you know, an attorney of the caliber of your daddy? Like, absolutely not. We going to lunch. But while they were at lunch, I think that's when Jax realized why he didn't want her to go to lunch. Because, baby, when he got up to take a phone call, guess what had happened? He hit on Jax. And even after Jax told that man she was married, he was like, what that got to do with me? I feel like Jax would not have been offended had she said I was married and he kind of let it go. But when his response was, what that got to do with me? She was kind of like, wait, what? What you mean? So then he was like, well, you know, I had to try. And Jax was like, but did you though? Like, did you really have to try? Because I feel like you didn't. And then she gets up to leave just as Morris Chestnut comes back. And that's when she realized, he realized something happened. He was like, Daddy, what you do? Because she was cool before I left. Now she can't get out of here fast enough. What you do? But when he finds out that the dad hit on, he was like, you know, he was like, why would you do that? Like, come on, stop playing. Like, on top of the fact that he kind of feeling Jack. So I feel like he was pissed off on both ends. That one, why are you embarrassing me like that? And two, I'm kind of feeling her myself. So I kind of feel some kind of way about that. But anyway, he ends up apologizing for her dad. I mean, he apologized to her for his dad. And she kind of like, it's all good. But, you know, again, you could definitely tell that she felt some kind of way about it or whatever. So, Jax gets a phone call telling her that her mom passed out. So she rushes to the hospital to go check on her mom. And while she's down there, her mom tells her, you know, I was trying to lose a few pounds because I'm going to go on this cruise with my new man. And, you know, I just want to look good. And Jax was like, don't let no man try to pressure you into not eating. And, like, if you're not good enough for him the way you are, then you don't need him. And Mama was like, child, he ain't making me do it. I'm doing this for myself. Like, I want to look good for him. Like, he ain't telling me not to eat. Like, chill out, Jax. But, of course, they had a conversation. And Jax is leaving the hospital. And just as she's leaving the hospital, guess who she see coming out the hospital? Louis. So she calls Louis. She's smiling like, ha ha. There go my boo. Because remember, Louis hurt his wrist. So I'm thinking she probably thought he was just there getting a follow-up on his wrist. So she calls him. Baby, he looks at the phone and sends her the voicemail. So now she like, okay. So then she calls him back, and this time he answers, and she was like, hey, what you doing? He was like, nothing, you know, I'm just at work, you know, trying to get some stuff done. She said, oh, okay. So she's sitting there looking at this man lie to her, and she feels some kind of way about it. So she ends up talking to her friend to get some advice, and her friend says, listen, do you and Jax have a trust? I mean, you and Lewis have a trust issue? And she says, no, I really don't. Like, me and him really haven't. She said, well, I tell you what. She gives her a scenario of when somebody called her and she wasn't ready to talk about something. Even though she lied to that person in the interim, it was a harmless lie because she just wasn't ready to talk about it. And eventually she did end up calling that person and telling them what was going on. She said, so maybe it's a situation like that. Maybe Lewis got something going on and he's just not ready to talk to you about it. Like, I wouldn't take it as him doing something nefarious behind your back. Now, the reality is she's somewhat right about it because it is something going on that he ain't ready to talk about. But it is something that can hurt Jax because you know, he might have another baby floating around out there. So Jax comes home from work that day, waiting to confront her husband. And that's when they find out about baby girl. So the brother must have snitched. Because when she comes in, her husband's like, Jax, we need to talk. And we were like, oh, this gonna be when she, you know, when he talked to her about what's going on. Only to find out this ain't when he gonna talk to her about what's going on. This is when they gotta talk about baby girl doing the TikTok dances and, you know, with her cleavage showing and all that other stuff. But Jax still knows something ain't right with him. And that night when they go to bed, baby, she sleep on her side of the bed, he sleep on his side of the bed. Both of them lost in their own thoughts, okay? He like, damn, I got something to tell her. And she like, damn, he keeping a secret from me. And both of them are like, damn, what's going on, okay? Now, while that is going on, Adrian gets called to testify. Now, nobody really knows what Adrian is going to say. Evans got one of his henchmen in the back of the courtroom to keep an eye on Adrian to make sure he don't say something he ain't supposed to say. Oh, let me rewind a little bit. What we find out is that Evans' situation goes way deeper than just illegal gambling. He is running a whole trafficking situation with underage girls and some more stuff, right? It's deep. It's real deep. And they have the evidence. So while Adrian is testifying, baby, Adrian tells it all. Okay? Adrian tells it all on the stand. He lets it all hang out, okay? Because he is not going to leave his baby hanging. Because all of it comes out about the affair and how long they was having the affair and whether he ever saw any abuse and all of that. Baby, Evans' henchman is in the back of that room and he is like, oh, that's it for you. You know what now? You about to be DEAD up in this piece. But Jax and them are able to broker a deal for Adrian so that he can go into protective custody and he can become a witness against Evan. And then they end up arresting Evan, and it's like a whole big thing where they end up arresting Evan, so forth and so on. Now, in the interim, it hits the news that Tony, a.k.a. one of JT's other women, because it came out in the interview that she had been pregnant and JT paid for her to have a you-know-what to get rid of the baby. Well, TMZ done found, well, you know, the TMZ equivalent on the show. TMZ done found footage of her down to the doctor and they done posted the footage. And guess who's in the footage? Lewis. And of course, Jax recognizes her husband the back of him because he still got that brace on his wrist. Remember a couple of episodes ago, I was like, oh, he must have hurt his wrist in real life, because I was like, why are they making this an issue about him with a wrist and this brace? Like, we didn't even see it happen. Now I see, I'm connecting dots. So now Jax is connecting the dots herself, and she's like, oh, wait a minute. Lewis told me that he was sleeping with somebody while me and him was separated. Was it Lewis? Was it Tony? Tony pregnant? Was he down there to see if that's his baby? Does he already know if it's his baby? And she's connecting the dots, and she feeling some kind of way. Baby, we see Jax sitting there smoking that cigarette with that music playing in the background, and we see Lewis call his brother and say, I gotta tell Jax, I can't hold it in any longer. And baby, Lewis come in that door and say, Jax, I need to tell you something. And baby, Jax turns to him with her scarf on her head and that cigarette in her hand, and she said, are you Tony's baby daddy? And that's where the episode ends. Anyway, y'all, let me know what y'all think, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.